Cheers, everyone. Sleepy Reader here. I took last week off from life. It was my daughter's spring break. We went to New York City. We saw the musical of Frozen. Then we went to Connecticut and visited my mom. And in New York, I visited some old college friends, which was both fun and weird. And I got to remind myself that I don't want to live in New York City, although it's an interesting city indeed. So this is going to be comic book thoughts by using the countdown method as stolen from Ghost Critic. I've been doing this the past few weeks. I've kind of been enjoying it as giving a shape to my little videos. So I'll keep doing it as long as I feel like it or can. Then I'll switch to other ways of doing my comic book thoughts or thoughts on my comics rather than reviews. I'll also have some little show and tell of some other stuff. And I apologize to anyone who saw the last video, which was that haul video that was originally a 20-minute video, and I sped it up till it became a 4-minute video, so you can't really hear what I'm saying, and it might be annoying. But after viewing the results of what I filmed, which was kind of a last-minute whim to just open packages and have the camera rolling, I decided not to waste people's time with a 20-minute video, but maybe it was a fun little experiment to do what I did. But don't worry, most of my videos won't be like that. It's occurred to me that for me, all of my videos are in context of the videos I've been doing for 6 or 7 years now. So little jokey experiments and other things are just all part of it in my head. But people might just come to individual episodes expecting certain things and not get them. So that's just the way that happens sometimes. But anyway, I was able to read 14 out of the 15 comics I bought. I picked them up on Sunday after we got back from our travels, which is why I'm doing this on Tuesday, just in time before I get more comics tomorrow. I did not read Aliens 3, issue number 5, because I haven't read any of the Aliens 3. I'm missing a few issues. They're somewhere in my house. I hid them hastily when my daughter was coming in the room so that she wouldn't see gory comics and have nightmares and not want me to buy comics anymore. So anyway, that's why that's not in there. But otherwise, a good chunk of 14 comics ranked number 14 to number 1 on my whim, just what I happen to enjoy reading right now and how I kind of rank them, not like some deep critical what's the more important comic or anything like that. It's just what I had more fun reading right now. So there you go. There were only 2 comics that really disappointed me, and the rest were all pretty good to very good. I don't think any of them hit the peak great. That just doesn't happen every week. Some of them are part of maybe series that are potentially great. It's hard to judge when you're in the middle of them. So anyway, number 14, the kind of belly flop of the whole bunch, was Neon Futures, which I wouldn't have known about if I hadn't been looking at previews a lot. It was near the back of previews. It's the first comic from this company, which calls itself Impact Theory. And I don't know if Steve Aoki, this well-known producer, dance music DJ kind of guy, owns the publishing company or just the story here, but it's sort of a Steve Aoki presents, and one of the main characters is clearly meant to look like Steve Aoki, and it's a futuristic science fiction thing that doesn't quite click or make sense, and then it's all told in kind of a clumsy way. In terms of, I don't know, it just all felt like a bunch of familiar elements told in kind of a clumsy way. Decent art, decent coloring, not enough to win me over from, occasionally art will be so good that I don't care that the story's kind of weak. But it was just kind of clumsy, and it just didn't work for me. I could imagine reading it some other time in a different mood or a different age with less experience with science fiction. I might have been more impressed by it. I don't know. Nice cover. So I don't know what other thoughts I have about it. It just was not told that well. I don't think there was the people actually telling the story, I don't think they were that passionate about the story. They're just trying to make Steve Aoki happy, I guess, by putting lots of pictures of him in the story, or an idealized version of him. I think they want it to be the next Matrix. I don't know. Okay, another big disappointment, but still kind of fun to read, was Dial H for Hero, written by Sam Humphries, drawn by Joe Quinones. I'm pretty sure I've seen other comics drawn by Joe Quinones, and the style seems different to me than what I remember. But the style's not bad. The coloring, one of my issues this week was either the coloring really worked for me or it just kind of didn't help the comic book. And the coloring in this is, I don't know, I think maybe there's a certain taste in coloring that goes darker and grayer than for me, particularly for a comic like this, makes sense to me visually. But the main problem was really with the writing. Again, it felt like someone, and I guess in this case it might be Sam Humphries trying to just do enough of a job to fulfill what was asked for him by the editors and by the curator of Wonder Comics, who is Brian Michael Bendis. So this is kind of the beginning of the origin where the hero discovers the phone that has the Dial H, but it just, for no particular reason, magically appears to him as he's falling off a cliff, and he falls for a very long time, and finally dials the phone. I guess that's like Roadrunner type of stuff. Maybe that's their rationalization for what happens, but I couldn't buy into it. Why would the phone show up? Why would some voice talk to him and tell him to dial H while he's falling down a cliff? And although it seemed funny to make him turn into this very sort of worse than 90s style superhero, it just didn't strike me as that funny, and it took me out of the story even further, because it didn't feel like the hero was inside this hero, the character. Everything just felt a little off. Kind of like I've been feeling about the Wonder Twins in Wonder Comics, but the Wonder Twins works more than this does. This is just sloppy, or hasty, very hasty. So maybe they just very quickly needed a Dial H for Hero script, and without thinking of some clever way for him to become Dial H, he just does. And there's an early scene when he was a boy being rescued by Superman, so there's a vague idea to tie into him wanting to be a superhero, and then he does get to be a superhero with Dial H. But that's, so far anyway, seems to be the only reason the phone has appeared to him. You could even just have a random kid find a phone that is magical, but for the phone to appear to him while he's falling off a cliff, I don't know. Anyway, I shouldn't complain about it anymore. That was number 13. So everything else after this I enjoyed, and I wasn't too disappointed with in terms of my expectations one way or another, although something surprised me at coming more towards the top of the list than I would have expected. So Hardcore number 4, I think it's going to end with number 5, or at least the current storyline. And it's pretty fun. It feels like a B or C level action science fiction movie from the 90s or something to me. And that's okay. It was fun. The bad guy is so bad. I thought before he had some good reasons for doing what he's doing, but he just seems to want to destroy everything. He's just an anarchist in the most literal sense, I suppose. I don't know. This cover is also pretty horrible. And, I think, again, a little bit of the coloring was not bad, but I don't know. The art and the colors, if they had been even better, might have done even more to overcome the so-so or the overly familiar kind of story feel. Not overly familiar at all was Man-Eaters number 7. I've complained for quite a while that it just seems like the same one joke over and over again in Man-Eaters. And we do still, get that with the fake ads, etc. But they are seeming to expand thematically and visually what's going on, but I wasn't quite sure what was going on. But I enjoyed it kind of in its inventiveness. So, there were the mom who suddenly shows up. I thought maybe the mom was dead, or I think they were divorced. That's what it was. The divorced mom shows up, and she's like Superwoman, even though the dad's the cop. I think the mom's a scientist, right? But anyway, she's kind of like a superhero or something. So still not one of my favorite comics, but within the context of everything, I was a little bit pleasantly surprised. I keep meaning to drop this, but now I'm wondering if it's getting near the end and maybe I should stick with it. Because if I can figure out what really went on in this issue, if the next issue will help me figure out what really went on in this issue. Damning with faint praise, perhaps. So maybe it's the cover of this Detective Comics 1000 and the fact that it's 1000 that put this at number 10. Maybe it should have been behind Man-Eaters in a way. To me, there were a lot of... So I absolutely love this cover. It's the 1930s cover. And there were a lot of other great covers. It was really tempting to buy more. But I figured I could get them later. Excuse me, if I really wanted them. And I think because I'm not that... Excuse me, I'm burping a lot. Not that thrilled by the contents here, that I will only double dip when the hardback deluxe edition comes out, which should have additional material and all of the covers inside of it. There were a few stories in here that were pretty good, but a lot of them I just felt like I was marking time. They were, and I can see it's difficult. It's somehow more difficult with Batman than Superman to do a celebratory, 6 or 7 page story about him, and sum him all up. So a lot of them just fell flat, maybe because they can't tell a real story. They have to do a celebration. Let's see, I guess I have to thumb through it to remind myself which were the better ones. I really didn't even... The Scott Snyder one, where there was this secret organization of detectives and all these other detectives who'd gotten there first, and he had spent years and years and years searching the clues out to find it. It just didn't make sense to me in terms of Batman. But I guess Scott Snyder's Batman is not my Batman, as is neither Tom King's. But I actually liked the Tom King one in here pretty well, but it was kind of cutesy. I'll spoil it a bit. The whole point of it was that he was gathering together the Bat family. Where'd that go? He was gathering together... It had great art. It was gathering together the Bat family so they all could take a group photo together. Now, here's a real flaw. This climactic scene of the story with a double-page spread, Batman's face is lost in the gutter loss. That's pretty sad. Pretty sad indeed. But, so what were the good stories? Another example of a story that kind of fell flat was Jeff Johns' The Last Crime in Gotham. Now, maybe this was kind of the wrong artist for it, because I think Kelly Jones is good for kind of horror stories, this almost needed to be drawn by Dick Sprang or someone like that. Not that Dick Sprang's around to draw it, but you know what I mean. Still cool art, cool coloring and everything. But it felt like the kind of 1950s warm and cuddly Batman family. And so it was by Jeff Johns, and there was a disconnect between the art and the family and the story there. Brian Michael Bendis did this odd story that I can sort of see seemed like a clever, creative salute to Batman about the Penguin actually knowing who Batman was all along and telling Bruce Wayne that when they're both almost senile old guys. But for me, it was a drag to read through. So, let's see some of the standouts. I enjoyed seeing Becky Cloonan draw Batman with her story with Warren Ellis. And the Georgie Belair colors were pretty good. I don't always know that Georgie Belair is my favorite colorist, but she does a good job. And I enjoyed, on a light level, this Legend of Newt Brody by Paul Dini. In fact, that was definitely one of the best ones for kind of summing up Batman and the Bat family. Let's see. And then I really enjoyed, there was basically a very short Robin-centric story called The Precedent by James Tynion, and it was really just Bruce Wayne, Alfred, and then Dick Grayson sitting around talking with kind of flashes of adventures in the background. But it hit the right note, had nice color, nice art and color. So that was one of the standouts for me. And it definitely touched, if you can buy into the whole idea of Batman having children as sidekicks, it kind of made that work. And then in a weird way, I had a love-hate feeling for this final story, which was by Pete Tomasi and with fabulous art by what's his name? So Pete Tomasi and Doug Mahnke. Doug Mahnke and Pete Tomasi are the team, the regular team on Detective. And at the end it says "to be continued." It's not really comprehensible what we've been introduced to that's coming up, but I guess it's a tease. But it also was kind of a clever take on Batman, where some villain or vigilante is narrating all the reasons why he thinks Batman is bad, and the villains he's apprehending are minor bad guys who shouldn't be punished so badly and everything. Anyway, that was kind of clever. But it doesn't really make me super confident for the next story arc in Detective, especially because when the last story arc by Tomasi and Mahnke wound up in Detective 999, I thought it was a real lame duck. As much as I'd been looking forward to Tomasi writing it. But I have more and more grown to really like Mahnke's art. So that the irony there is I've started to like the writer less and the artist more. But so, I liked Action 1000 a lot more than Detective Comics 1000. Maybe it just hit me. That one hit me right. This one didn't hit me right. So that was number 10. Number 9. Now these are all these last 9 were hard to rank, but Black Hammer came down lower than it maybe used to, because we're still in this story that feels a bit of a return of the same cycle we were already in. The characters in this, a variation on the theme that we've already gotten, but it also includes more of this Martian Manhunter, although that's not what he's called, Barb Alien, the Martian story of his tragic gay love and his revenge. I don't know if this is an alternate story or if he really did murder a bunch of people on Mars who murdered his lover. So I assume time will tell whether it's the same Barb alien that we've known in the other issues as a hero. I mean, he's a sympathetic person here, but the amount of vengeance he wreaks, the amount of people he kills, or amount of Martians he kills, makes it odd to think of him as heroic at that point. But this issue was a lot of fun. It was really well done. I love the art and everything. It's only that feeling that we've sort of been there before to a degree, the sense of repetition a little bit from previous portions of Black Hammer, that's a little disappointing. In some ways, like the story of Black Hammer's daughter, we're getting kind of a better version than we did when she was searching for clues in that Sherlock Frankenstein comic. So in that way, it's kind of better, I guess, than some things that have come before. So anyway, that was number 9. Might have been higher if it felt more original. Peter Cannon Thunderball I is coming in at number 8. I was really sort of torn in a lot of different directions about how to take this comic, because it literally continues to be some kind of odd, almost fan fiction sequel to Watchmen, as signaled constantly by all these 9-panel grids, maybe even more 9-panel grids per issue than Dave Gibbons did in the original, but not nearly the density of information or artistic effort. There's a whole lot more space here. I do think the colors continue to improve, so I liked the colors more in issue 2 than issue 1, and now I'm liking them even more here. But and the story is intriguing, and I guess what it adds certain things that were not in Watchmen, such as the whole idea that it seems like Peter Cannon Thunderbolt knows that he's in a comic book and knows that he can kind of travel through reality through kind of comic book means, which is intriguing and fun. It's not a very solid thing to build a story upon, but it's kind of cool. And I really liked the last page here. I won't give that away at the moment. But, this is a very fun read, but it is a weird feeling of kind of reading fan fiction in the sense that it's a tribute to the Watchmen that's not nearly as good as the Watchmen, and it's kind of an individual person's fantasy of something that could spring off of the Watchmen. I guess a lot of comics are really fan fiction, but I get that feeling really strongly with Thunderball. But I'm enjoying it. But then apparently I enjoyed even more Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I hated this cover. This is cover number 3. I wish my shop had given me cover number A. Unfortunately, I didn't think to look on their shelves to see if they had cover number A and substitute. I didn't think about that till I got home. But I really loved the art and color and the way they did Sabrina, the character, and her world. And I felt like the writing was just the right tone for Sabrina. So this is part of the Archie Forever series, which I assume means slightly closer to the classic Archie characters than the creepy grown-up Riverdale versions or the Sabrina horror comic that they're also doing. So it's a lot of fun. It has a bit of that Buffy the Vampire Slayer feeling of high school and magic, and a bit of some other things going on. It's its own thing too, but it's just a case of it's not a big important story, but for what it is, what it's doing, it's just a pleasure to read and look at, and so I really enjoyed it. And what did I say? That was number 7. And here, maybe this is my number 6. Maybe this should have been number 7. And I don't know if Sabrina should have come ahead of this. I really like the storyline here. I'm less of a fan of the art. There's the great Jesus Saez cover, but Jesus Saez is not the artist on the inside. And the art is, I don't know, much more kind of traditional comic book, which isn't a terrible thing, but kind of my expectations were for one thing, more like the cover, and I got a different thing here. It seemed a little stiff and I don't know. Simplistic is not the word, but it was definitely an old school kind of feeling, but not like, I don't know. I just didn't get into the art as much as I should have. However, it was kind of a cool story. It felt like a twist on the whole world of Doctor Strange that we haven't seen before, or I have not seen before. And it's interesting, maybe Mark Waid was particularly thinking about that, because he kind of started off with the idea that Doctor Strange feels himself that he's been fighting the same fights over and over again and having the same issues. So as I flash this up here, I'm warming up to the art more. My expectations have been changed. So it just feels more like a 1980s Marvel comic with slightly updated colors. And a fun plot where this slightly crazed magic creature from another planet, to save his planet, steals all of Doctor Strange's powers, or a lot of them, and sends Galactus into a magical universe, a magical netherworld, the Mystic Realms. I guess, is that what they've always called them in Doctor Strange? So Doctor Strange feels that some cataclysm is going to happen with the scientific Galactus mixing in this zone of magic and trying to eat it. So he goes off to into the Mystic Realms to try to stop this before bad things happen. And on the last page, he discovers bad things have already happened. To be continued. Just good fun. I really liked it. So a Marvel comic ranking up quite high, given the weight of this stack. Marvel comics don't always do that for me, but yeah. So this was up at, did I say number 6? Also ranking higher than you would think. Shazam, number 4, coming in at number 5. And this is where a lot of my highest ranking ones ranked higher, because I've been enjoying the issues leading up to it, and then the present issue continues to fulfill the promise of the previous issues, and that redoubles my pleasure. Shazam, kind of like Sabrina, I'm enjoying just a really well done kids story. It's too bad that it says rated teen. It should say rated 6 and above or something like that. Maybe a little scary for a 6-year-old. Maybe 7 or 8 and above. It has, for me, it has all the charms of the best kind of children's fantasy stories, and I enjoy those when they're good, or at least good in my opinion. And we spend a lot of time in the, quote, wildlands, which is a very sort of civilized New York filled with anthropomorphic animals where humans are forbidden. And we also learn more about the fun lands where adults are forbidden. We also get a little bit of a glimpse of the game lands. And this issue introduces, to me, a key character in the fun of Shazam's family, or the Captain Marvel family, Talking Tawny Tiger. He is part of this world. And look at the detail there. I mean, that it's just, this is a lush, you can just sink right into this children's story book. I hope DC has a way to find this when it prints it in collected issues, find its way to the kids sections of bookstores and libraries and such, because it's just a wonderland waiting for kids to read, unless it suddenly gets all gruesome. Hopefully that does not happen. I mean, that would be a shame. The most gruesome page is this page, which is kind of depressing but not horrible. But it would be a shame to blow it all by suddenly going all adult and gory or something at the end. And Jeff Johns is doing a really good job of each issue expanding the story and expanding the story. So now there's more characters involved, more twists and complications piling up. I trust him to be able to handle it all and bring it all to some interesting conclusions and then lead into the next story, I hope. So I really hope Shazam lasts for a while. I know Jeff Johns is probably not the writer to stick with things anymore, but I really hope he sticks with it and we continue to get a whole lot more. I haven't even read this with my daughter yet. She hasn't been in the mood, but I'm just enjoying it so much. And I look forward to passing this on to other kids I know in time. Then complete opposite spectrum, not for kids whatsoever. A very disturbing and gruesome episode of Ice Cream Man. This might have been number 1. I put it at number 4. It might have been number 1, except that the last 2 issues preceding it disappointed me a bit. And I wanted, in my ideal world, this issue would redress and address what was going on in those issues. But it's more back to the traditional Ice Cream Man issue, which is this kind of mysterious, creepy horror story that has a kind of almost postmodern story that's Uber story or something level to it. And in this one, it's about this victim of the Ice Cream Man who isn't even called the Ice Cream Man and is not given ice cream. So they've kind of dropped the ice cream motif to a degree. You can recognize the Ice Cream Man in here, but he's never shown as an Ice Cream Man giving the victim ice cream before these bad things happen. But this guy walks through a series of disturbing and gruesome reality TV shows, and which finally leads him to a horrible end, and some relatives of his too. It's one of the better Ice Cream Man mind trips. Now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it, I wish I'd ranked it higher. But anyway, that nagging feeling from the other issues that I need a little something else going on here is what didn't put this to number 1. But in by itself, as a one-off horror story, it was pretty incredibly disturbing and inventive and, wow. Ice Cream Man. Okay. Much more fun, but still probably an adult story. But probably good, I would think, for teenagers too. Because the hero's kind of a teenager, I guess. Either late teens or early 20s. Is Skyward. Fixed. Okay, my camera died there for no reason that I know. Maybe it doesn't want me to record more than 34 minutes. As I was saying, this one is one that ranked very high up there, number 3 out of the 14, because of how well it's been building and building and building. And each issue is fun to read and tense and exciting and adventurous and has little twists and unexpected character turns or unexpected revelations with each issue. And this issue has some really big ones. So I'm not going to give those away. But lots of excitement and tension happening here in the first issue of the new story arc. And the story's taking a whole new turn again by the end of this issue. I really appreciate them giving us, they give us kind of process stuff. Every few issues, the writer talks a little bit about his decisions and how, like at the end of one of the arcs, he made a decision to kill off a character that he was not planning to do, and that changed the whole story. And now in the beginning of this arc, he's made a new decision that's changed the whole story that he wasn't planning to do. And I don't want to give away any more than that. But I like these little descriptions of that. I enjoy seeing the process art, etc. for it. Some other issues will actually show us the thumbnail layouts and stuff, which I really enjoy seeing, comparing to the finished pages. But anyway, all in all, I'm still really glad I'm getting Skyward. I know some people dropped it because it's a very decompressed story, so they didn't want to get it issue by issue, and I understand that, but I'm enjoying it issue by issue. But it's definitely will make a good read in trades. I guess this is the beginning of what would be the third trade, issue 11. So there must be 2 trades out there now. Okay, and these last two, number 2 and number 1, really surprised me that this ended up being my number 2 and my number 1. How am I doing time-wise? Yeah, I still have time. Got to pick up my daughter, but that's still about an hour away. Not that I'm going to talk another hour, I hope. But so my number 2 was issue number 4 of Freedom Fighters, a DC comic taking place in an alternative Earth where the Nazis won, kind of a hoary old thing from alternate history type of stories. The Nazis won, what's the Earth like? With the famous Philip K. Dick story about that, that I think they've turned into a TV show now. And there's been a lot of other novels that have done that. And I guess DC has maybe gone to this universe before, but I haven't read about it before, except in a one-off Grant Morrison issue. But writer Robert Venditti is the author of 2 of my favorite DC books, this and Hawkman. And the art in here is great, as it is in Hawkman. In my opinion, great colors, too. And so it's very black and white in the sense of good guys and bad guys, at least at the moment. I mean, there's little quirks to the good guys, but the bad guys are really bad. And the way it's told, I just buy into that. The evil Nazis, the good Americans, the spirit of 76, and all of that. It's very cheesy and corny if you wanted to analyze it. And, it's very nice for us Americans to feel like we're just the good guys instead of looking at all the bad things in history. But anyway, on that level, it's just very satisfying and a really well-paced, well-told story. I'm enjoying hating the bad guys, and I'm enjoying rooting for the underdog good guys who seem like they don't have much of a chance. I suppose inevitably, I don't know how it can have a big twist to it. We're 4 issues in of 12 issues, so maybe there's some twists coming up. But one presumes at the end the Nazis are going to be defeated, and so it's probably one of those books where getting there is more fun than or the journey is going to be more fun than getting there, I assume. And with 8 more issues, it could go wrong. But the first 4 issues of just each issue I've been enjoying more than the last. I just have fun reading it. And even more on the topic of fun, my number 1 book is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. The 4th, and I believe, is it 4th or 5th chapter, probably 5th chapter in this. Where do they put the titles? They don't. I can't find them. Anyway, it's probably the 5th chapter in this story about Bad Dream and Nightmare. Bad Dream is this boy who's kind of been kidnapped as a baby by Nightmare into the land of dreams. He's never slept. He's always been awake. He's a human boy, but trapped in the land of dreams. Reminds me a lot of... it's a lot like Where the Wild Ones Are. The boy in that, I can't remember his name anymore. And there's also been touches of Little Nemo throughout. And it also resonates with just a lot of different fairy tales and changelings and all of that kind of stuff. It has fun appearances by Sleepwalker and Doctor Strange and, of course, Nightmare. And the resolution was pretty good, but I think it was the journey, that this is the capstone to 5 really good issues. And that's part of why that it landed the ending, and it was also delightful. I love the story. I love the art. I love the way they do Lunella. She's obviously a extremely idealized young girl, but she still captures something about me, what I remember when my daughter was younger, about loving about your little kids. that it just captures something about kids in here that is a delight. And the art looks very simple, but it's deceptively simple. There's a lot going on. There's great layouts, which are never, super show-offy, but often have something clever going on there that makes the story stronger. So another one, that I assume it is finding that the reason this is continued for now 41 issues is because in trades it has found its young audience. I mean, I think this is ideal for, I don't know, 5 to 10, 5 to 15, depending on, but definitely for younger readers, read to by their parents and stuff, it works really well. Where's that? There's one of those very inventive layouts I was talking about. It's just a joy, and I think the artist has really grown a lot, and the writer has given her stuff that in the last 2 arcs, I particularly notice he's really playing to the artist's strengths of her sort of flights of fantasy, creative imagination. This story is connected to the Marvel Universe, but it's not gritty. It's not connected to the gritty side of the Marvel Universe. It's just a fun, light fantasy that just clicks. It just really clicks. So I really loved it. The next arc, all we know is that Spider-Man appears in it. So we'll see. Any book can go south, but this, if I could find the title of this little story arc, for those who would like to find it when it comes out in trade in a few months. I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Bad Dream. It's just called Bad Dream, which is also what the boy is named. So it's going to be a short trade. It's Bad Dream Part 4, just 4 issues. But the 4 issues, it was a perfect length for this story. If it went out on much longer, it would have gotten a little tedious, I think. I mean, here you're seeing Lunella interacting with one of the Doom bots that she's reprogrammed, plus a robot in the tradition of Silver Age Superman and Supergirl, a robot Lunella that she's made who can take her place, although she's a little obviously a robot, but from a distance can fool grown-ups into thinking that Lunella's at home when she's off having her adventures. So charming stuff, for me anyway. So while I was in Connecticut, I kind of have this, when I was a kid, it was so exciting whenever I got to go to a bookstore and pick out a book that I like when I'm in Connecticut to go to a bookstore and pick out a book. And I ended up picking out 2 books from this very nice bookstore that's in Madison, Connecticut. The first one I got is called The Invisible Library. And on the back cover it says, Irene is a professional spy for the mysterious library, a shadowy organization that collects important works of fiction from all the different realities. So that first line in the description hooked me. I felt like I had to give this book a try. I haven't cracked it open yet. And then the other book I got was called, it's a nonfiction book, From Holmes to Sherlock. It's kind of a narrative that covers the history of Sherlock Holmes, starting with Arthur Conan Doyle and his life and how he developed Sherlock Holmes and how the mythos of Sherlock Holmes developed around him and everything. So I've read this far in it. It's I've read about 100 pages. I'm on page 104. And so I've only been reading about about the Arthur C. Clarke era and the first major actor, stage play producer, and scriptwriter, William Gillette. Is at the point I am, William Gillette has just done his first adaptation of Sherlock Holmes, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And speaking of Connecticut, my parents don't live too far from Gillette Castle, which is a castle that William Gillette, who became rich from playing Sherlock Holmes, built for himself on the shores of the Connecticut River. And if you're ever in Connecticut, in that area, it's kind of near Old Lyme and Old Saybrook. It's fun to visit. He built himself his little fantasy castle after he made his millions. I'm not sure if it was millions back then, but his huge amount of money off of playing Sherlock Holmes, and then retired. So anyway, and then it's going to go up through the history of all the different adaptations of Sherlock Holmes and such. And it's highly readable. I'm really enjoying reading it. And I think, along with superheroes and everything, I'm fascinated by serial characters and characters like Tarzan. Like I'm reading that Edgar Rice Burroughs book about the creator of Tarzan, about the history and just the cultural development of characters who stick around, like Batman and Superman and Sherlock Holmes and Tarzan and many others. There's something to me fascinating about that. Oh, and I just lucked out at another comic book store, managed to find issue 5 of Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. Last week, I think issue 6 was my #1 comic. Was it #1? It better have been. And so I'm really looking forward to reading issue 5. I hope I find the other issues too. And in back issues at my store this Sunday, I picked up Defenders number 11. I didn't have my cell phone with me, so I couldn't check. I might already have a copy of this, but I love this cover, and I loved these early Defenders when the Silver Surfer would show up in particular. And then I picked up 2 Captain Americas from the late Silver Age or beginning of Bronze Age, 15 centers. I haven't actually looked inside these to see who the artists are, although I assume they're Gene Colan art. We'll see. Could never go wrong with it. MODOK showing up there. Oops, I love MODOK. And yeah, so I think I have all of these in an omnibus too, but I like having the individual issues of Captain America. And I'm continuing my quest to get everything ever published by Atlas Seaboard. And so I have most of the color comics, and now I'm working on the black and whites. So I've just got Weird Tales of the Macabre #1, and there's only 2 issues. And I think I have another copy of Weird Tales. I'm soon to get a Weird Tales of the Macabre issue #2. I don't want to spend too much on these. I don't think they're necessarily great comics. So I think I spend about $15 on this, and that's maybe a little less. And I think around $16 is what I'll be paying for the final issue. And then I don't think I ever showed this. Kaiju Max. What are they calling it? Is it Kaiju Max Max? It's the Kaiju Size Deluxe hardcover. So this is the first 2 seasons of Kaiju Max in one book. And I feel like the art looks way better at this size. I didn't expect that. That surprised me. The art and color, all by Xander Cannon. I believe he does his own coloring too, and his own lettering and everything. And he's the writer. But I really am getting into it all over again at this size. So if you haven't read Kaiju Max and you like to get hardbacks, I really recommend this Kaiju Size Kaiju Max. For some reason I thought they'd call it Kaiju Max Max, but I guess not. And it's got a lot of good extras in it too, by the way. So, yeah. Did I already cover this in a video? Anyway, now I'm spending a lot of time reading it. So I almost didn't get to this week's stack because I was so into the Sherlock Holmes book. But previously, last week, I was getting distracted by this Kaiju Max book. So more on that. Maybe I'll have some more new Kaiju Max thoughts. Or maybe all I seem to say about Kaiju Max is that it's really great. Well, thanks for hanging in with me for another very long video.